Hello, welcome to this CG Pro Industry Insider. Today, it is my pleasure to welcome Ian Fursa, who is a virtual production supervisor, does a lot of really great virtual production shows with big studios like Netflix, and he is the creator of the VP Toolkit, which he's going to be showing today. A VP Toolkit is a suite of tools to help with virtual production, and he is also co-founder of Catalyst Virtual, which is a virtual production platform integration services company, and he will, I'm sure, explain what that is as well. But Ian, welcome. Great to have you here today.
How's it going? Hey, yeah. How's it going? My name's Ian. Some of the people that might be joining this or watching this might know who I am, but to tell you, I'm a virtual production supervisor. I generally work on TV shows, commercials, music videos. I also do a lot of integrating studios and training. I've trained multiple colleges and around the world, Ulster University, Hudson University in Maine. And I have been doing virtual production not for the longest time ever, but I come from a director of photography. I used to run a production business before I got into this. And as soon as I found Unreal Engine, it became 14 to 16 hour days of me obsessing, oh, how do I bring the real into this world and re-represent it through the camera? Because my main studies were originally, optics, image sensor, just getting it right in production. I worked on my first production was a MCM fashion brand production, which was way higher than, virtual production was ready for, or I was ready for at that point with virtual production. But I went through all of the stuff that I had been already testing in my home office and things like that, and walked away from that with the knowledge that, virtual production there's a huge gap between production, which was the world that I lived in until I, found in-camera VFX and, fell in love in so many ways. Between that and regular production, standard art department, director of photography is your heads of your department. So at that time, I started getting into building my own tools because I was like, okay, this is not going to work. When they ask me to change a lens or, or do the color, it's just, I can't go through these many clicks, and I understand that layer of complexity always needs to be there for operators and for level artists to be able to get into the finite and make Unreal Engine look as real as possible and really understand how the engine works. But there needs to be an interfacing way to bring that into a production and be able to use it without losing time and money and people's energy, and having more consistency in virtual production. So if you want to share my screen, I'm going to talk a little bit about the mindset of how that integrates into what VP Toolkit is trying to do. And also, this is what I think everybody should be trying to do, whether you're using VP Toolkit or not, is kind of going by this mindset of plan your shoot before you get on an LED wall stage. I'm on productions all the time, and consistently I am put in a place where someone asks me to go to a location or reference a shot or bring up a level, and I'm sitting there going, I have no idea what you're talking about. You know what I mean? We did a pre-light and a prep day, and this is the first time that it's being integrated into the wall system. And this happens a lot in medium budget commercial shoots. I understand that, when you're working on a film production, you have a little more time to get into these things and dive in because you want to know what you're getting. You want to be able to fine tune. But sometimes these commercials that operators are working on, there's the director or somebody may be the person that's building the level from assets they've just got on the marketplace, and they're like, okay, this is good. But then you bring it into the stage and there's all kinds of issues that they didn't understand that they would run into. So what the new, workflow of VP Toolkit is to try and get rid of that. So production pipeline, it all starts at being prepared for your production. So I'm going to be doing an actual demo of some of the tools in the toolkit in our plugin, but for now, it starts with basic level design. It starts with blockouts, and then it starts with virtual scouting. So then it starts with bringing your director, your key creatives, especially in a fast-paced environment where you already have a level built, or you're just receiving the level and you need to communicate quickly. Maybe these are a couple prep days that are done through Zoom or something like that. But then from there with the VP Toolkit, and of course, a lot of this is available in the engine, but what VP Toolkit is trying to do is give you a shortcut to that so that more studios have access to these pipelines that production companies are already using. This is the way that large production studios are servicing their clients and not having a lot of issues, as many issues on set, I should say, because you still have the technical stuff that has to go into this, but this is going to help so much when you're on set and you don't have to deal with both. So we have the VAD and TechViz. So that's, being able to bring in your stage into a virtual environment and tech visit and say, where's the wall going to be? What assets are virtual? What assets are real? And then being able to translate that well to, on-set production. So actually being able to reference those things, level locations, those level configurations, maybe those level snapshots, different lighting scenarios, or just being able to show everybody on set who's trying to get this shot for a director what he had in mind by doing a level sequence and, actually mapping it out, which is not very hard to do in Unreal. A lot of people are already doing this as they want to learn. Directors, DPs are getting involved in just playing around with Unreal Engine because it's becoming more accessible, but they don't currently have the tools to integrate that into an in-camera VFX production yet. So then we have stage operation tools. It really breaks down into like project, stage settings, and then locations. I'm actually going to just dive into showing off some of the other components to that. Another thing is that VP Toolkit offers custom training, integration consulting. So looking at all of your configuration, how you're going to set it up, and then making sure that you're set up for success, and then coming out and potentially training on those custom workflows. And then also, we're very small scale when it comes to production services right now, but I'm planning to build out more of a baseline for if you need an operator for something, you could potentially just come to us, and we have a network. We already do. I mean, we can recommend operators, but right now we don't offer it totally as a service. You would kind of just be hiring whoever we recommend. So let me put this down. Let me take a drink.
So just to say to the audience as well, Ian's going to do this demo and we will have some time for QA at the end. So please feel free to post questions as we go. We will get to them after the presentation.
Awesome. Right. And I hope you're all having a great day. Don't forget that.
Yeah, I hope so too. Underscore.
Totally.
All right. Well, so feel free to take away.
Yeah. Do you want to full screen me again?
Yeah.
There we go. Okay. All right. So here I have set up, I have a little actor here on the bottom left corner of my screen. That is a live feed to a Sony A6500 that I have set up over here with a 50 millimeter DISO lens. And then that's running with an Atomos into my server, which is then, coming through here through the Blackmagic. That's so that we can kind of take a look at what our changes would be affected on an actual stage. Let me close some of this stuff. And then so we have a Unreal Engine editor. So this is the editor that you'd be using to control your stage. We're logged into a multi-user session, which is then controlling that version of Unreal. Of course, I mess up my screen here. These things never want to agree with you. So these two widgets that you see here are the VP Toolkit plugin. Now I have them, I have them with these other, the outliner and the details panel for those that know Unreal and are following along with this, so that I can show you the integration of all these components with, how you already work with Unreal. So first off, we have the Frustum camera widget. This is to control what your camera sees. So this is, we have focal length, which I'm not going to change because I don't know why it says 52, but that should say 50. Put that on a 50 millimeter. We have sensor presets. So this is basically, I'm trying to get all of the most used in-camera VFX cameras, and then you can just select your camera and then select whatever format you're shooting in. So what this does is that will actually change the frustum size, the sensor size of your frustum camera, and just a shortcut. If you need to manually enter something, you could very easily, we could actually see what this is doing if we click on the camera. If you need to manually adjust something, you can do that. And then you can also add your own presets, which is extremely easy to do. My A6500 here does not come with it. It's one of my presets. And then you have, as you start to integrate with and light with your DP or whoever's using this, you have simple things like color temperature. Like maybe when we want to make this cooler, we can adjust the color temperature of it. And then let's say, the reds in the background, sometimes when we're rendering to a wall, we'll have a little too much saturation. It makes it look a little unrealistic when things are too bright and too poppy, or maybe there's not enough. We can adjust that. There's adjusting the frustum, which will adjust what the camera sees. And then there is the post-processing. And then we also have the exposure compensation for both of those. So if we have to adjust the brightness of our view, we can do it here. And then, so that's the basic, like, quick controls. You also have the f-stop and then the focal distance. The focal distance is not too reactive, and I'll talk about something that's going on with that. We're using lens data. So with this interface, you also have, some other basic camera settings, and you have indicators. So there's a little indicator here showing that we're in a multi-user session, that we have tracking, what the name of our tracking is. If we go into our live link here, it shows here. If I was to shut this off or I lost tracking, this would turn gray, and then it wouldn't be green anymore. And then, so that's just an easier way than having to constantly look over here. And then we go into our menu system. So the menu system, you have config settings. So this is your in-camera VFX component. This system is designed to eventually be multiple camera. This version that's going to be released is single camera, but the whole entire infrastructure for multi-camera infinite, or, as much as your processing can take and you can, have a need for, we'll be able to just create multiple cameras and multiple widgets so that you can have as many camera widgets as you need, just assigned to different in-camera VFX components. And then tracking. So with the tracking, I tried to make everything a lot easier. Instead of going in and having to build something in the world outliner or do whatever, you just enable tracking. You select the subject, you select the preset, the live link preset that you want to use. And then you also have the manual offset here. So if you wanted to offset the height and your camera's pivot point in relation to the tracking, you can manually adjust that here. And then we have a way of auto just using a tracker. So you put the tracker on the front of the lens, and then when you enable this, I don't have the tracker on. That will be for another day. But basically you put the tracker on the front of the lens and you set the pupil distance, which is basically the distance of your nodal point in relation to the front of the lens. You don't have to get this perfect for every production. Most people are measuring to the sensor, which is completely wrong for a pivot point for a lens. So this is going to get you fairly accurate, even if you just like measure to the center of the lens, and then it uses another tracker. So your tracking can like be upside down, or whatever you have to do to get the correct tracking. If it's on an arm, and then when you use this calibration, it will take whatever it's doing and then just set the offset for you. It's very useful and it's very fast, because all you need to do is take a tracker, put it on the front of the lens, hit that button, and you're calibrated. So when you change lenses or camera bodies or move your tracking system, it's very fast for setup. And then we have our lens data system. So this is focal length, aperture, focal distance. Pretty simple controls. You just enable it. You select the live link input. All of these work with a basic live link role. So if you have a live link cinema camera coming into Unreal, that's like a lot of the low LED stuff comes in as a cinema camera. That's why I'm using the Indy Mark II for my lens encoding. I also have the other one, an older one, that doesn't currently work well with the new software. So, but any lens encoder that's coming in as a cinema camera will work with this system. So it's very easy to create that. It's the same thing with the Vive Mars. You can actually plug this encoder directly into the Vive Mars, and it comes straight through there, and it just picks up here once you select it. So you can actually see I'm just going to go the focal length. You can see the direct input, so I'm racking the lens. And then what we're doing is we're setting the A and B point. So all you have to do is rack the lens all the way back, set the A point, rack the lens all the way forward, set the B point. And then you can select a lens curve. What you'll want to do, I'll have videos on how to create lens curves specifically for this, and I would recommend doing that if you're going to use the focus settings. But in a pinch, if you had to just use some stock lens curve, it will get you better than if you were just running straight to the wall. But you definitely want to map out the lens curve. It doesn't take that long. I've done it on the prep day for productions many times. And I'll have a video on how to do that. So the next thing is our secret sauce. This is the depth of field solver. So since I came from, looking at a camera's perspective, like I love optics. I love lenses. I love depth of field. You know what I mean? I love a good image, and I understand that, a lot of the digital stuff is pretty far from getting all of those characteristics that we get in real vintage lenses and things like that. So from the beginning, at looking at in-camera VFX productions, there's been an issue with the depth of field. It doesn't currently, it layers the depth of field. I won't dive too far into it, and you can probably find a rant of me talking about it somewhere. If not, we can up a call and I'll continue to rant about it. But this is our solve for that. This is basically going to take the lens data. It also has an auto mode, but it takes the lens data and then it does a calculation of what the fall off would be past the camera's perspective. So once it gets into the wall, hold on, I got an auto save that's throwing me off. But another feature that is part of it that you can see in the UI over here is that it actually has a into screen focus. So I can actually focus on automatically. I don't have to do anything or set any parameters. It automatically goes from our depth of field solver, which calculates for in volume shooting depth of field, to the depth of field focus, where you can actually focus on virtual objects in the level, just using your standard setup. Now, the way that it gets mapped to your focus wheel is slightly different than normal, so there's a little bit of a workaround there. But if you have a shot that needs this, it will probably be a godsend, because it works really well. And it's kind of not a lot of walls are really set up yet for being able to focus on them, so it kind of it might take some time before it's fully usable. But we have plenty of bugs to work out that we want to just make it better and better and better. But I can show you. So the depth of field solver that's in focus here, really what it's doing is it's accounting for how much the focus would fall off after it hits the wall. So you can actually, if I change the depth of field multiplier, which is kind of like a general overall adjustment, I'll turn it off basically by turning it to 10. And you'll see the background. Did it update? Is multi-user live? No. Of course. Okay, so I don't have live. I don't have live control. Let me try and hit save one more time. Sometimes multi-user gets a little weird. But basically, what it does is it solves for the depth of field once it moves into the level, once it goes into the virtual world. And that gets rid of that layering effect, because the things that are automatically in the front of the, they're directly in the LED wall render are, they're crisp. They're just as in focus as your props and things like that. And then this controls the fall off after that. It also has an auto mode. So if you don't select the lens data, it will automatically do the same thing, but it kind of just accounts for how far you are from the wall and your f-stop or t-stop. So you can just put in your aperture and move your camera back and forth, and it will actually change the depth of field for you. And then you can just use the multiplier to dial it in based on your how you want it. So let me see if I can get my control back here. Okay, let me see if, here we go. Okay, so all of those settings live in a specific VP Toolkit system that actually you can click on your end display config and get to. So you can, oh, come on. Oh, this is the word outliner. If you click on your end display config and you scroll down, there's VP Toolkit settings. So all of the default settings, for the systems, there's a level system, which I'm going to try and show you. I should probably speed it up a little bit. You have all of your stage settings. This is like previs, resolution, things like that. And then you have all of those camera settings. So we have all the tracking stuff. We have all of the lens data. And then we have color IO for that system. And so that I'm going to introduce my the camera system. So these loading and unloading these configurations can be timely on set. You could be creating other frustum cameras and then just switching which one of those is connected to your frustum, and then there's different ways you can do it. But what this system does is it takes your camera's configuration and it saves it into an in-level object. So if we create a new camera, I'll just go here, create a new camera. Let's call it for demo. And then I'll write demo shot. That's fine. And then, so if I select previs, that's going to label this as a previs camera. And then, so when you're doing your tech viz and you're actually going around and using your stage to find these shots, the previs camera will be able to integrate into the sequencer, so that you can actually take, so let me add this. And if I click on this and then I go to my previs toolbar here, eventually I think this is going to end up in the camera widget, so bear with me while it's here. But I can actually just take that shot and export a screenshot. So if this was, oh my, I think it's messed up here. If this was previs and you're going through and you wanted to just quickly export all of your, excuse me, all of your cameras, you can use that as a previs system. So you can actually filter here. So here's all of my previs shots for this project. These are shots that are sitting in the level with objects, with like props. We can go to it. I've set up all of these shots. This is designed to be like the previs for short film. Now I could probably see where that actor is at to see. I think some of these I deleted the location marker for it, but I can see if I can find the location. So with the camera system, you can then separate your production and your previs cameras, and then you can also load them. So if we go back to our focus set here, we can go, okay, what was the original ICVFX focus solver demo? I can load that, and it's going to ask me what sections of that do I want to load. Do I want to load the nodal offset of the camera? Do I want to load the lens data settings? Do I want to load the standard UE settings, the post-processing? And then I can tell it, so just in case if we've made changes and I don't want to overwrite them to my Frustum camera, but I may want to pull like the post-processing because the director did something awesome in it, I can load that, and that will just update my set. And then if I want to, I did save one. So this one is the one that I saved, so we can load that back. I like that one a little better. It's a little brighter. Also has, we have a chroma key setting, which didn't work. Sometimes multi-user is a little weird, it seems to be right now, but sometimes you do run into that with this because of the way it logs transactions. So generally it's pretty good for a long time, but once in a while you get stuck at a point that the multi-user might just not log to the thing. Usually a quick save just fixes it. But yeah, so that brings me to the location system. So that's all the Frustum settings that we have. That's the ability to quickly set up your camera, recall that, and then with there's going to be two different versions of the plugin. There's going to be the artist version and the studio version. The artist version is going to be, it's not going to have the on-set tools, the stage production tools. It's not going to have all of those, but it's going to give you the previs aspect that you need, and then those people will be able to use, directors and DPs and whatever, production will be able to use that to then integrate into stages that have all of the other components, and they will be compatible with each other. So you could take a stage level that had been set up with all of this stuff and just bring it into an already existing production studios plugin. So let me close this. And then the other system that complements that and might actually eventually get integrated into the Frustum camera is the location marker system. So we can set a new location. I'll show you some of the tools for that. So let's say we want to go over here and find a shot, and the director says, somewhere facing this corner. You can use the snap stage to view tool. That's automatically going to find the floor below you and then set that value of your stage flat on the ground in front of you. So this is very easy if you go way out into a field and you've got to, set your stage there, and your config is somewhere way off in your level, and you're like, I've found all these, but instead of taking 6 clicks to right click and do this and do that, you can just hit this and it will automatically just populate it below you on the ground. There is some materials that don't really work well with this, like it doesn't see it, so sometimes you may have to just get it close, because I think it just goes to the 0 point if it doesn't find a floor. So then once you've found your stage settings and you found your location, you can then log that location. So I can do, focus solver demo. We'll just call this, it'll be all for demo. And we'll just call this stage for demo. Why not? I can't come up with anything more clever right now. So I'll drop that. And then, so now I can now go to where I was at before. And then I could load my camera settings from when I was originally here. And then just quickly, I can load back to the other side. I know that end display is not updating right now, so I'm going to hit save one more time and see if it plays nice. But that's a system that's designed to just make it so that you can pop around your level very quickly. You can do previs, very fast without having to fumble over finding all of your things and controlling your system. And then we also have stage settings here. So in a minute, I'm going to show the level manager builder and this setup here. But first, I'm going to actually show you, we have a level snapshots system. So you can just add a level snapshot through here, and let's just call this for demo. We'll just go with it. This is the level. I don't know why I didn't put any spaces in the description. And then I can just create that level snapshot. And this, hopefully this doesn't crash, because this is it's taking a picture of the entire level and saving it as a asset. Should be all right. Might just take a minute. So we also have some other hotkeys here. So there's the frustum camera. So if you just click this little camera button, it will automatically select the frustum camera. This little freeze icon here is to freeze the viewports. So if you're not getting the frame rates that you need in your on your end display, you can hit freeze, and it will actually freeze the viewports outside of your frustum, and this will increase your frame rate immensely, because your system won't be rendering the outer frustum thing. So I probably should have not made that, but I want to show you guys. Yeah, and then we also have a save all button. This thing is, there we go. And then if I hit refresh, there's our level snapshot. And then we're going to be working on doing, that's fine, we can go back to here. So we're going to be working on doing filters as well, custom filters, so that accompany workflows, because a lot of times with level snapshots, the problem becomes that you don't know, you want some things, but you don't want other things from a scene or a configuration, and maybe it's lights. So what we're trying to do in coordination with building a lighting widget, basically like a lighting mixer, but for Unreal Engine level, designed to be able to be used by, a production crew or like a DP to be able to help light the scenes. We're also going to add in like filters for snapshots to be able to, let's see, I don't like this lighting now. So we'll load this camera. There we go. And then, so that's the level snapshot system. Very cool. I'm very happy. It comes in handy. You do a configuration, you do a setup, and then a lot of times at the end of the day, I'm like, okay, let's just take a level snapshot of it. And then the next day, if there's any issues with like, oh, this thing moved or that thing moved, or there's other work done, you can always kind of go back to that state, and then it has the date and however you describe it. The only other tool on here is there's actually a validation system where you can clear your post-processing volume with your default post-processing volume settings. So if you have a certain type of settings or default settings that you like, you can clear that. This is kind of a beta part of the plugin, I would say. So let me go here. And then, so I'm going to get out of I'm going to just stretch this over here, and I'm going to get out of a multi-user session to show you the level integration tools. So basically, part of the VP Toolkit system is when you install the plugin, it automatically installs the other plugins that you need for doing in-camera VFX virtual production. So if you have a blank level, just by installing the plugin itself, you will automatically install the other plugins that are needed for that level. You'll have to still change some settings, and then what I'm about to show you is the level system. So once you have, where are we here? So once
Hey, Ian.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt you for 1 second, but I'm just wondering if you'd be able to quickly check your settings, your video resolution settings down the bottom, because I think it's
down the bottom of here.
Yeah.
The screen
there
share?
there should be in the settings, you've got video, and then you've got the resolution setting for the video.
It does
within Restream.
Yeah, I don't think I can get to it on that machine. I have no access to settings unless I stop sharing, I think. Is it that bad?
No problem. No, it's just a little lower res. It's a little harder to read the text.
Yeah.
Is all.
Well, just.
But I think people are getting the general idea. Just figured if it was easy for you to check, then.
Yeah. I tried to make it
no worries.
This is like a 5K screen, so I tried to make it bigger than it normally would be. But I mean, these are. I may actually make some of these, as some of these bigger and things like that. We're still, playing with the UI, but as far as like reading it on an actual screen, I've tested this on 1080 and 4K and things like that. It's very readable on set. I understand that through the system, it's probably going to be a little low res, but
no worries.
I'll just keep going. It's all good.
Keep going.
I'm sure people are kind of used to it. If you need to read the specifics, we can get into that.
Cool.
So
cheers.
In the stage settings menu, we have our level building system. So I've been finding this extremely useful. So basically, when you get into a new level, let's say that we're not in this configuration already, we get into a new level, we need to build an end display level configuration. So we need to set it up so that we have our environments, we have our end display stage, we have all of these components, and that requires dragging things into the level thing and then making sure they're set. And there's been 100 times that I have gotten a black screen and I was like, I didn't set the level to be the right streaming method. And, and very small things, it's very easy to miss. And I've missed tons of times, even though I know it, but it's just another thing to have to think about. So what's made here is the ability to basically make that level system just with your own inputs. So you select your project and you put in whatever your project name is. And then we're going to do the CG Pro demo stage level. So basically what I'm doing is I'm making a copy of the stage level that I already have. This is what you would do if you were integrating this with a Studio's plugin. So you would have your own stage configuration that would be all set up. You'd have all your cameras that you need in it. This can travel around with you inside the plugin itself. And then so we're going to be making a copy of that when we build this. And then so if we weren't, just for demonstration, if we weren't doing that and we're building our own stage level, we also have config presets. So you can add a config, and if I just hit this right here, it would just add this config to the level. So even if you already have a level set up and you just need to add a already set up end display config, you can actually just select user and then just go to whatever your config is. Like this is my home setup config. I could just easily just add this to the level. And actually, I don't think this, I'm not sure if, yeah, the adding to the level doesn't make a copy of it, but if you build the level, it makes a copy of it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the one that we already have set up here, just because I want it to kind of go back to the way it was. And then, so all I need to do, another thing to note real quick is you can select where the paths of those are. This is very useful if you're managing your assets. You can kind of change how that is set up. Right now, it just goes to user folders within the plugin, and then your actual project and your environments go to a local folder, so they're easier to get to, and they don't keep all of the assets in your plugin. You want to keep whatever you're bringing around with your plugin with you as light as possible. So you want to just keep that as more of like a way to cache settings, which is nice because you can have whole entire shoot days or do a commercial or something like that, and then be like, yo, we had that camera, we had that same camera last time. Can we bring back that level and then re-import those settings without any issue? And you can. It's very easy. You can just base your project off of that, and it will just integrate everything as it was. So I'm going to build this and hope that it doesn't crash. So there's not any lights here because we haven't added an environment yet. So I'm just going to add an environment before I show you what came over. So we'll add the demonstration level, which is the level that we had as the environment before. Okay, now we're somewhere familiar. And then I'm going to add the previs level, which was the level that had a lot of our stage component stuff, all of our locations. And then let's see here, where's my... Oh, I think I made a copy of the wrong level. Yeah. I made a copy of the wrong level when I changed it. Okay, so I'll just call this demo 3 real quick, and then we'll select... no, I'm definitely not going to know which one it is. Should be CG Pro stage level right here. And then same thing, build that. There we go, I can see the cameras. And that was my bad, I selected the wrong level. And then we'll add the demonstration environment. You can already see how, you know, for those that set this stuff up all the time, this is light years faster than the way that it normally has to go. From dragging everything in and then adding it, you can just select your levels, and then what it does is it adds it into the level based on what it is, and we're making this like smarter and smarter every time we update. So right now it just sets everything to the always loaded, which means that it will actually work for end display, but some of these you want to go in here and turn them into blueprint like the previs. That's just so when end display fires up, that level just doesn't even load. So some other settings that we have in here, so that's the level building system, but some other settings we have in here is the ability to change the frame rate. So we can change the project frame rate here just by doing that. I can probably show that. So we'll put it at 24 even, hit that, locks at 24, 23. 9.8, lock at that, and that's just a easier way. I've always found that that was kind of a pain to get to. We have color IO management, so if we go to our config here, we can turn on color IO management, and then we can, right now, it just comes with the color IO sample because it's the color IO sample, and then that has the ability to convert it to sRGB, PG, gamma 2.35, and sRGB monitor. So generally, for you may have to dive in to understand what this means if you haven't gotten into color yet. But basically, the gamma 2.35 is what you're going to want to set your wall to gamma 2.35, and then that is going to line up with generally Rec 709. And then PG is another format which Brompton takes PG, and then you'll have to get in the train videos to learn more about that. But this is a quick way to set it up. We also have the stage height. So if you have a stage that has an offset, so you've lifted up your talent to get them off the ground and be able to see more of the stage, this will adjust that. And a lot of our other features actually, like when you go around and do virtual scouting, it takes into account the stage height. So if you've added the stage in previs, then your LED wall will actually be in the correct position already when you do your previs. And then we have a projection mesh offset. So we can actually adjust this mesh here that's doing our in-display rendering manually here, or we can connect it to a tracker, which is how I actually set up this setup here. I just put a tracker on the center of the screen, and then I use this system and then just hit the button, and it automatically sets the screen's position based on wherever that tracker is. And I found that for, if that's a system for like if you have moving walls, you could actually have a tracker of some kind. This could be an OptiTrack, whatever, on that system. And so that when you move it, you can just use this system to update where that wall is at any time. And it's fairly quick to use as well. So yeah, so that's most of the plugin settings. I want to go back to my level that I was in, and that is some of the workflow and the tools that we're trying to integrate and that we're trying to teach and bring into productions early, so that this stuff can help people make this more creative in pre-pro and then get better results and more consistent results on set. Give operators the ability to not have to translate what directors, and a lot of times you get these projects and there's two cameras sitting in there and you actually have no idea what their intention behind that was, and sometimes what the story is, and you're having to pick that up. And as someone that has to control all of this, it's much easier to be able to have those references and bring that into your production. And then these tools are going to eventually integrate into iPad controls. I've been working on a iPad controller that works with this, so you'll be able to load configurations, be able to do level scouting, and then all of that could go into your production, or you can do those while you're in your production on set. But yeah, that's all I really have to say, I think. So if we want to open it up for questions while we still have some time.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks, Ian. That was really interesting. Yeah, we definitely have some questions that have come in whilst you've been doing this. And if anybody out there wants to ask any more, then please do post them in whichever channel you are consuming this in. But let's go back to the first one here. So somebody's asking, are you seeing mostly vanilla Unreal being used on set, or are you seeing zero density, pixotope, symmetry, etc.?
I generally work mostly in the in-camera VFX field. So there's not, besides disguise as like another layer, there's not too much out there that works. And there is, and I'm seeing those tools sometimes, but that's if a studio is willing to try and integrate that into their system. But the biggest downfall is that a lot of those systems are like, they're kind of designed for something else. Like a lot of the stuff out there is, there's a lot of amazing stuff being done in the green screen virtual production right now, and I dabble in that and I keep up with it, and I do my development and experiments and Sometimes I have AR shots. So I do all of the stuff on the wall, and then generally there's another team that comes in and does the front plates. Like I'm going to be working on a show in the next couple months, for a couple months, and they have another person that's doing exemetry for on-set previs. And I'm the virtual production supervisor for it, so I'm going to oversee that, but it's not really, I'm just overseeing the development of the levels and the integration of that into that filming.
Copy that.
But yes, I have.
Right.
And they are there sometimes, but it's very rare because it always feels like a tool for another job. If Unreal can, if it ends up making it more complicated than Unreal, it's hard to integrate.
Yeah, that makes sense. And there's some people still using Disguise even now that we have end display.
Yeah, but I mean, they complement each other in some ways.
Yeah.
If you have to switch between 2D, projected plates and graphics that are going by, and then this, and then that, and then the render streaming, but it does add a heavy delay compared to end display. It's like double the standard delay for the whole system to process, which is fine for 2D plates, but for in-camera VFX, it's a lot of money to pay for that. I mean, I love Disguise in some ways. Like for XR, for doing set extension, you have to get so many points of calibration correct, and Disguise is currently the only one that gets those points of calibration good enough to be able to do set extension.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Any other questions?
Yeah, somebody's asking, could you speak a little bit more about the concept of nodal point and what effect it has when you get it wrong, for example?
Okay, yeah. So the nodal point is the point at which your camera's perspective is created. So in your physical camera, you have your lens, and in that lens, light comes in and crosses each other and then goes onto your sensor. In the middle of that cross is actually where your image gets created. So that's where the light flips and becomes, okay, I'm an image. This is where I've captured the light from. That's your pivot point or your nodal offset. That is actually where, the center of your lens is. So if you're talking in 3D terms, it's the root point of your lens. It's where it, turns from. So when you're doing virtual production and you connect a tracker to a camera, a tracking system to a camera, that tracking system is nowhere near that pivot point. But what it's going to do is it's going to move the virtual camera at its pivot point. So what you need to do, the main thing that you need to take in consideration is offsetting that in relation to it, so that when you move that virtual camera in your level, like, let me see. Oh, my tracking's, I killed everything. I think it was because I did the level load and I loaded the wrong level. Let me get back into that project that we were in. But that nodal, that makes it so that the camera pivots on that point. So what my system is doing is it basically takes the tracker and your other tracker, and then it goes, here's the lens, here's the tracker, and then it sets that offset for you so that it's fairly accurate. Now, as far as creating as far as what that does when you don't get it right, is really you're going to move your frustum and maybe directly center. Your frustum looks fine, what your camera can see into the virtual world, but you may have it might be a little high or it might be a little off, but then as you pivot the camera in different directions, it gets accentuated because different points of the camera will actually move at different pivot rates. So if you turn the camera to the left and turn it up, you might see that that space drastically increase. Now, when you're doing green screen composition or AR, or you want to do anything where you're layering, multiple layers of this, that nodal offset is so important because with in-camera VFX, you can kind of get away with a lot as far as the perspective, because this perspective between, here and here it's a little different. You might see above or below a table incorrectly or something like that, but sometimes you can get away with it. But with green screen composition, it's like, no, it needs to line up or the floor is going to be moving all around. But it's a general part of calibration in these setups, but it's something that generally takes a lot of time with a lot of other systems. So the reason why I built this was so that there's a way that it might not be perfect every single time. I can guarantee it's not going to be 100% perfect, but there's other systems that take a lot more time to be able to get it perfect. But this is going to get you to the it's going to be extremely accurate for in-camera VFX as far as your height and your nodal offset.
Great. Another question here we've got: are the changes in 5.1 making this whole process easier, or is it still the same convoluted process?
I think it's getting easier every single day. I'm so excited to get into 5.1 because I can't wait I'm hoping that 5.1, once they work out any bugs that they currently have, it gets to the point where you can go in and you can light the scene like you would normally light a scene. And then you have that control of being able to really move around assets, because everybody says you can move around things in real time, but that's a huge performance cost. And most of the time you're baking these scenes with lighting or GPU mass lighting. So there's time in between that. And there's variables in between that. You may adjust something, a movable light or something like that. But having good people on set that are well trained in Unreal and in set protocols really helps negate a lot of those errors, those problems that you run into with virtual production. But 5.1 hopefully is going to make it a lot easier with the compatibility of Nanite and Lumen. So the whole scene that I just showed you is actually Nanite and Lumen, but this was in 5. So there occasionally I had to go in and mess with some of the settings to get the Lumen to kick back on, because there's small bugs with it like that, especially in 5. But I haven't done a truly deep dive into 5.1 yet. I'm still integrating the plugin and the workflow. I've got in there and I've played with it enough, but I'm super excited to bring everything over to that, because I do think it's getting easier and easier every day.
Excellent. Yeah, I know that there's a lot of improvements to the Unreal workflow in 5.1 as far as ICVFX
foliage.
Tools. Yeah.
Nanite foliage and the reflections, being able to have translucent objects with lumen reflections. That was always like, I had this big scene that had a river in it, a creek, and it's just like, I would have had to use planar reflections, which are horrible for performance.
Yeah, it's super
usually slow. If you need to optimize a level for in-camera VFX, the first thing you should do is go into the details panel or the world outliner and search for planar, because planar reflections will bring down your frame rate by a lot. And a lot of times you don't need that high quality of a reflection on an in-camera VFX shoot. But there has been times where I just shoot in a barbershop once, and virtual barbershop, and it had all of these mirrors. The whole wall was lined with mirrors, and the only way that we could get them to look accurate. But hopefully 5.1 is going to fix that now.
Right. Yeah, I've had some fun with that in the past too. It's the planar reflections are basically you're rendering the entire scene again in that direction and then using it back in itself. So it's like double rendering. Looks nice, but it's also not entirely accurate from depending on what perspective you're looking from. You can go totally off, and something can reflect in a different place. So, yeah,
it's not very predictable. It's tough. But the promise of moving everything over to Nanite, Lumen, and their reflection system, as long as it gets better and better and better, is like, wow. You'll be able to go in there. I'm currently working on a series for directors of photography. That I'm doing all of my videos in Unreal Engine. Like I'm just taking lights in Unreal Engine because I have models of of an RE light and of a bounce card, and I'm using Lumen to then generate out a cinematic from Unreal.
Oh, very cool. Yeah.
Jackie just asked me, when do you expect the toolkit to be available for purchase? Yeah, so I've been pushing this date off a little bit because I want to make sure that all of the educational material is there. Because I want people to be able to integrate these workflows, and I want people to be able to like, the thing is useless unless you learn how to use it and learn the shortcuts, because you don't want to do everything. So I'm releasing like a training course on doing the whole entire end display workflow. That's, setting up render nodes and things like that. So processing all of that material is taking me just a little longer than I'd like, and then I'm just doing the final polish on the plugin. So I'm hoping to be ready for release by December 10th, and then I'm hoping for release at the very beginning of the year. I'm probably by the end of next week, I will actually have a release date.
Excellent. Well, let us know what it is, and we'll happily share it with the community.
I know. Definitely subscribe to the website. If you go to vp-toolkit.com, you can subscribe to the newsletter, and we're going to be putting out updates and every time we have something, or anytime we're talking about the toolkit or anything like that. And anybody's more than welcome to reach out for communication.
Well, the links are already going out to the website, as I can see in front of my very eyes. We got another couple of small questions here. Before we wrap, there's one person asking whether you're looking for beta testers.
It depends upon who you are. If you have a studio that is already set up to integrate this and you're already doing clients, potentially yes. But if it takes me more time to have to train somebody on how to do this, or if you have an LED wall and you are doing this system and you are already at a certain level where you don't need that extra training to get to the next level, I would love to have beta testers and people working with this. But also, I beta test it constantly. I already have a couple of studios that have integrated, and we've done commercials, we've worked on stuff. And then this is also, this is an iteration of an already built on system. So most of the foundation of this has already been tested. But while I work out how to have beta testers actually, make sure that we're able to use their information properly and have that funnel. I'm only doing very select studios.
Copy that. All right. Well, that sounds like you. Then get in touch with Ian and ask. Somebody else here is asking whether you have any plans for in-person training.
So I currently do a lot of in-person training. I'm working on trying to get together a home base, which would be a small LED wall studio somewhere, either in New York, probably in New York. And I'm hoping to do some in-person training through there. Currently, you can reach out to me and we can talk about what your studio is. We can talk about what your goals are for that studio, and then kind of come up with a plan of how we can help. And that may be, coming out and doing a training course. We do offer coming out and actually like learning your system, or helping you get your system up and running properly, and through like proper protocols, and then we'll train you on how to do those protocols. So usually that's a 4 to 5 day situation, but that is that's limited availability right now. I do have other people that are being built up as trainers. I'm also working with CG Pro to hopefully get some VP Toolkit training, and or we can work on stage training as well, so that CG Pro can offer that as well. But I'm going to be releasing a whole entire training course that is like for producers, for anybody, stage operators running a stage. The only thing that I'm not going to be covering a lot of is the LED wall configuration, because that's something that I don't generally handle, and I don't like to speak too much. I understand it. I deal with it every day. If you want to have a conversation about it, or you need to help integrate it, we can talk. But I don't put that into any of my training, because I think that somebody that that is their main focus will be able to do it much better. But we can align that.
The physical wall itself.
Yeah, we have partners that we actually have 3 partners that do that will come out and integrate a wall and then train on it.
Perfect. I think we've got one more. I can see somebody saying, does the documentation include information on setting up your stage? I usually have issues with space calibration, floor height, etc.
Yes. I actually just did some pickups on that, so that in our initial filming of all of the course, which was done at Form Studios in Georgia. They are partners with Remedy. They're like a brother-sister kind of setup, but we shot a whole training course there. And in the training course, I didn't properly go over all of that, so I made sure to go back and do pickups. So documentation, no. The documentation is most likely not going to properly cover what you need to understand those components. The courses definitely will, because the documentation is going to be very logistical. You know what I mean? If you need to do something, here's the process to do it. But as far as understanding, your stage, the 0 point, what your floor is, how to calibrate that, that's going to be through the whole training series. And in the training series, the whole training series is based on Vive Mars. And then in there, I'm also going to have 2 videos on doing the same process with Vicon and OptiTrack, because those are also 2 very complementary systems for this.
Fantastic. Well, I think that wraps all of the questions that we've got. So yeah, just leaves saying thank you, Ian, for coming in. That's the way to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. I wish I had like a little, just turn the exposure down.
Right, and we could have some Scooby-Doo ending effect that we could work on.
Yeah, like a little circle. Goodbye, folks. Always. All right.
Yeah, thank you for being a part of today, and appreciate you sharing the VP Toolkit. And I know that you're also you are also co-founder of Catalyst Virtual, and if you wanted to probably briefly mention what you guys are doing.
Yeah, so basically, just a real quick little pitch about my partner company with my partner Steve Chandler. He what you're seeing here, this demo that I just did, was done on our Catalyst server. So Catalyst Virtual is our company. Right now we do integration. So anytime you need an entire turnkey system. So this is all of the render nodes, your Genlock system, the network. We specialize on the infrastructure aspect of virtual productions using Steve's knowledge in infrastructure design. So we basically come in and we give you a studio grade in-camera VFX virtual production. We partner with people to get walls in there, and a lot of times we're actually being hired by people that are integrating the walls, and they need to integrate our systems as well. So we do the render node, we do the whole gamut, we do all of the network, we do odds and ends like Genlock and things like that. We like to have control of that. And then we can come out and set it up and train you on it. And we're building out our capacity to be able to service more customers doing that. And then on the back end, all of this is really to serve our development, because everything you saw rendered today as my little demo was done on our Catalyst development server. That Catalyst development server is actually it's one machine running dual EPYC CPUs, and it's running two virtual machines, a shared drive, a Perforce server, and a couple other containerized virtual services rendering on it. And then that also integrates with cloud systems, and we're building out our cloud system. So a good example of that is we recently did with CG Pro the Microsoft Production Summit. And in there, we brought in somebody from Japan, somebody from Argentina, and then Steve was in Philadelphia. We were in LA. And then so we had people from kind of all over the world integrated in there, controlling our level live on set. And that was done actually through our Perforce and through our multi-user and through our VPN network in Philadelphia. So even though we were on set there, all of our main services, we also used Azure VMs, which were a nice little add to that. But we also supply VMs that you could then tap into as a remote virtual machine as well. We don't have any in-house, like it's not something that we lease out, but we like to install the hardware into the studio itself so that you have a render node, something that's very powerful that you can run, but then through our services you can access it anywhere, and people are able to come in and bridge networks, which is super useful for multi-user and things like that. A lot of people shy away from that, and we're looking for more complexity, but we're moving into containerized end display renders. So pretty soon we'll be able to, well, it may be far in the future, but the goal is to get to video over IP render streams. So basically you just have one box that can do containerized renders over your network. So you could use an iPad to control it if you wanted, or whatever you wanted on set, and that would be connected into the end display and editor system of Unreal.
Very cool stuff.
That's the pitch.
I'm sold.
You want one? Hold on, let me get your email.
Yeah, I'll send you my my PIN number in a second.
Yeah, no problem. Just do it on air. It's fine.
I could just type it in the chat here. Okay. Give me 2 seconds. Oh, my keyboard doesn't seem to work.
They signed an NDA.
Did you guys all sign an NDA? Okay. Well, awesome. Thank you, Ian. Appreciate you again sharing about the Catalyst as well as the VP Toolkit, and just being here to answer people's questions. Hopefully, I'm sure we will get to do this again soon. Awesome. Yeah, thank you. Is there any more links that you want to share with people? Anything that anywhere people? I know you mentioned the website, which we've already shared. Is there anything else that?
Yeah, I'm mainly on VP Toolkit a lot. Subscribing to our website and our email list is really the best place to get information. And as these things release, we're going to further the subscription system. So the best way to really get to VP Toolkit is that. You can also follow me on LinkedIn or Instagram or Facebook. Basically, it's all just my name, Ian Fursa. So it's very easy to find me. The Catalyst VP, www.catalyst-vp.com is where you can find information about Catalyst. We're in the process of kind of redoing that website more on our service model that we've more recently switched to. And then I'm on Instagram if you want to follow me personally. I post a lot of stuff about VP Toolkit, and then VP Toolkit also has an Instagram, which I would recommend following. That's the best place to get BTS, behind the scenes shots, and then we'll always be releasing content through there.
Right. Great. Well, thanks for
sharing. You can also find me
sharing.
At my website, ianfursa.com.
All right.
Well,
most of those links have already gone out through the channels here.
Yeah.
We'll follow up with some more. And again, thank you for spending time with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Thanks for letting me rant about what I've been working on. I hope that we get a lot of feedback and or interest in people wanting to make their productions better.
Everybody wants that. Well, reach out to Ian if you want your productions to be better. And
when you say it. All right.
Well, look forward to having you back soon. And thanks also to our audience today. We had a good crowd today. Some good questions. Thank you guys for participating and asking good questions. And we'll be back again soon.
I hope you have a great day or night.
There you have it. Have a great day or night or middle of night or wherever you're watching this from in the world.
Yeah.
We'll be back again soon with another podcast and another one of these very shortly. But today you've been watching Ian Fursa, and we'll see you all again soon. Take care, everybody.
See you in the next one.
He will see you. There you have it.
You can't say it back. It's not a tagline if you say it back. All right. Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.